For many of us, being servants of Christ, to give our lives to serve others with humility, is considered already a great challenge for many of us. And indeed, for those of us who give our lives in service for others, we would consider ourselves to be quite good disciples of Christ, because we serve the community, because we serve the poor and all those who need help. But being a Christian, and especially if you are a Christian leader, it is more than just being a servant. It is not good enough to be a servant. We are called to be suffering servant. And this is a tall order indeed. We might be willing to be servants of Christ, but not many of us, in fact, very few of us, are willing to be suffering servant. But that is the truth of real discipleship. A leader, a disciple, is called to suffer. And I think this is the most difficult part of Christian discipleship. Yet this is what the Lord is demanding of us if we want to serve Him. But many of us, we don't really hear this call, or we try not to hear this aspect of the gospel. And I think it is true that many of us, we don't really think through the sacrifices a leader must pay in order to lead. We only think of the glory, we think of the frills, we think of the benefits, we think of all the advantages. We tend to see the external gains, benefits of a leader. But those of us who are in leadership will eventually come to know, sooner or later, that leadership has a price. And the price is, of course, suffering. No leader can succeed without suffering. This is the price that many people don't recognize. That's why leadership is a lonely job, because as a leader, very few people understand you. As a leader, there are many things you cannot tell anybody. You cannot tell everybody. As a leader, there are many things you cannot just tell in public. And you know things are not right, but you cannot explain the real reason why certain things cannot be done, because there are certain things, certain situations that you need to protect. So as a leader, you are always in dilemma. You want to do the right thing, and there are challenges. Then it's a question of how much can we say, how much we cannot say. What are the three particular challenges, especially for those of us in leadership? And these three, they normally come together as a coalition. What's the first enemy? First enemy is always the institution. When you are within the institution, you become part of the institution. But can you speak out against the institution? Your head will be on a chopping board. Just imagine you are appointed CEO of a place, and you are fighting against the institution. Of course, your head will be chopped off. But then, as a CEO, you want to do good things for the organization because you are committed. But, there are politics, there are powers behind that. And you cannot. Because to do it means that you are out. At the same time, there's a need. You feel perhaps you are drawn to do something. But it is not easy. Because when you speak against the institution will feel threatened. They will try to clamp you down. They will try to demolish you. Today, as leaders, we are fighting against the academy. Today, we have a lot of intellectuals. Everybody got their own plans. And they are very manipulative. People are very intelligent today. From right, they can argue until wrong. Black to white, they can argue. And so, as a leader also, you are caught in between with all these so-called sophisticated, complex arguments. You don't know where to stand. Everybody got their own views, and every view seems to be attractive. And as a leader, you are sandwiched. how to sift the truth from all these different pressure. Who are the false prophets today? The media. Media today, they will propaganda. They will try to put up a narrative to go against his government, go against the church, go against religion, against individual. And the media is powerful, very powerful. They can corroborate evidence and put their own narrative. And the media today, they are supposed to speak the truth, but they are all one-sided. They all have their own perspective. They're just trying to champion their cause for whatever reason. So the question is, how objective is the media? They also have a rice bowl. Those who write also have a rice bowl. So when you have the media, you have the institution, the academy against you as a leader, how you survived? In the face of this, a leader therefore needs to be strong. He needs to have fortitude. Without fortitude, we cannot be a leader. And so, for those of us who are in leadership, we need to pray. We need to turn to God, because there will be many situations we find ourselves vulnerable, helpless, in a dilemma. And this is where it's part of the sacrifice. This is why we are called to be suffering servant. To suffer for the truth, suffer for being misunderstood, suffered for being slandered, suffered for being ridiculed. That is real leadership. Ultimately, victory belongs to God, not to us. We can only do our part. We can only stand firm, but we will, of course, suffer the consequences. But that is required for a true disciple. If we are not ready, then we are still far from being a true suffering servant. A leader, please never forget, is not just a servant, but a suffering servant.